Hey everybody, it's Saturday and you know what that means. It is time for Saturday Q&A, a weekly video that I do talking about questions and answers that I receive and get from tenants and landlords throughout the week. And I actually got 3 really good ones that I want to talk about here. So let's get rolling. Hey everyone, if we've never met before, my name is Vojchehoske and welcome to Nebraska Landlord's YouTube channel, where my mission is simple, and that's to enhance the landlord-tenant relationship through education. Don't forget, this is not legal advice. This is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult with your attorney if you need legal advice on anything. So let's look at our first email here. It is from Tricia. She owns a property management company in north central Nebraska. She actually was not involved in this. She was asking for a friend of hers who's a tenant. Now it's kind of a long email, so I'm just going to give you the bullet pointed version here. March 28th, 2022, a tenant gives their landlord notice that they are going to move May 31st of 2022. So no issues yet. Everything is legit. The lease expires actually on April 11th of 2022. So it's a fixed expiration 1-year lease that expires on April 11th. On March 29th, the next day, the landlord responds with a verbal counteroffer, if you will, to that notice that says, no, our lease expires April 11th, so you have to be out on no later than 11:59 p.m. on April 11th. The question is, does that tenant have to move on April 11th? And the answer is no, they do not. Even though it's a fixed expiration lease, meaning the contract expires on April 11th, in the state of Nebraska, a proper and legal 30-day notice still must be given, okay? Remember, the 30-day notices have to be given by the landlord or the tenant. So if the tenant does not want to stay and they're going to move, then the tenant would need to give the proper 30-day notice. And if the landlord is not intending to renew the lease, then they also have to give the proper 30-day notice, whether it's a month-to-month relationship or it's a fixed expiration lease like we have in our scenario here. So the answer is no, the tenant does not have to move. Now, the next question is the verbal counteroffer, if you will, a legal notice from the landlord, which then would require the tenant to move out on April 30th? And that's a great question, and there's no clear-cut answer here, because one could argue, and I've seen it go both ways in court. It really depends on the judge that you draw in these scenarios should it go to court. If the tenant shows up, the tenant's going to argue, well, judge, that notice was for April 11th, which was an invalid notice to me, so therefore the notice died. And I never received a follow-up notice to be out by the end of April. Because remember, in the state of Nebraska, a fixed expiration lease, if there's no proper notice given by the landlord or the tenant, automatically continues on a month-to-month basis. All right, that's an important distinction to remember. I have seen sometimes where in these kind of scenarios where a judge says, fine, that was notice, get out, or you have to be out on April 30th, that would be legitimate notice, but most judges do not, they don't do that. They want it to be the T's crossed and the I's dotted. So if the tenant stays until April 30th, and the landlord tries to challenge that in court, there's a really good chance that the landlord is going to lose. So if you're the landlord and you really want them out on April 30th because you can't get them out on April 11th, then do the right thing. Put a written notice together and give it to your tenants on or before the 31st of March for April 30th. All right. Now that was a great question, and quite frankly, this actually happens all the time with these fixed expiration leases where neither party, the landlord or the tenant, neither one gives the proper 30-day notice, and then what happens is that tenancy is extended by an extra month. Ladies and gentlemen, if you own rental property and you don't know these little things, you need to know these little things, and if you don't want to know these little things, then hire a property manager to do it for you. Be in the business and know the business, or hand it off to somebody else that can do it for you And if you need a recommendation, I would recommend PPM, which is Performance Property Management. They are an awesome management company. They know what they're doing. They're well trained down there. Give them a call. Ask for John. Here is their contact information. All right, let's get to question number 2. It says, my tenant is a hoarder. Uh-oh, I know where this one's going. I actually knew when this one's going before I finished reading the whole email. My tenant is a hoarder and is collecting not only their own trash, they refuse to take it out to the dumpster, but they are also collecting trash from the neighbors and local businesses. They dive in the dumpsters and collect trash and drag it into the apartment. The apartment is stuffed to the ceiling with trash bags. There's rats, there's bugs, and the smell is awful. Everyone, the neighbors, everyone is complaining in the community. I was told that I cannot do anything because this person is protected under fair housing because they have some type of mental health issue that requires them or makes them hoard. Is that true? This is a great question. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice here. Anytime there is a potential fair housing jeopardy issue here, you always want to talk to your attorney to get advice on how you should precisely proceed, because every case or every scenario has a different fact pattern, and you really need your advice of your attorney. However, I'm just going to give you some just general information here, not legal advice. Are they protected under fair housing due to their disability? And the answer is yes. However, just because they are protected, their activities may not be protected. Remember, if they are truly hoarding trash and there's rats and bugs, etc., then that violates all kinds of health and code standards. Yeah, you're going to be able to evict that person based on health and safety issues, not because you're punishing them because they have a disability. I'll give you a case one time that I was involved with where in downtown Omaha, there was a landlord that had a tenant that was a hoarder, and they collected used condoms. Used condoms. There were thousands of them all over the house. He would masturbate in condoms several times a day and then throw them on the floor. He would go, at that time there was a lot of prostitution down in the area where the property was. He would collect condoms that were on the ground. He would also pay people to masturbate in condoms, and then, that was his deal. He actually got the health department involved because he was genuinely concerned about the tenant. And so that may be also an option for you, is call your health department in your county and get their help assisting, because this person may also be in a position where they're doing harm to themselves and they need help. But consult with your attorney before you make that phone call. But don't wait. Get on this. Do it now. And we've already spoken. But yeah, and I know you have. But yeah, don't wait on this, because the tenant's health is also in danger as well. So, great question. Hey guys, if you're getting any kind of value out of this, please do me a favor. Help this channel grow. Give this video a thumbs up. Hit that red subscribe button. Click on the notification bell. All right, the last question of the day here. All right, our final question of the day, again, it kind of plays along the line of fair housing, and I got to get my old guy glasses for this one. It says, hi, Paul, my tenant has requested a service animal and wants a cat. They gave me the telephone number of their therapist, which is an online therapy company, and the company is based in Miami. Now, best I can tell, it's a real organization with real counselors, but I would feel more comfortable if I could require the tenant to bring me or give me the number of a local company. Can I do that? And the answer is no, you cannot. Now let's back up here a little bit. Obviously what's happened is, for whatever reason, your tenant has a need and the therapist thinks they need some type of service animal. Now, just so you know, under fair housing doesn't make a distinction between a service animal or a comfort animal or an emotional support animal. They just call them an assistance animal, and that's it. That's just a little sidebar here. So essentially, your tenant is requesting, more than likely, if they're getting a cat, it's an assistance animal. If it was a dog, it could actually be a service animal, but under fair housing, it's an assistance animal, number one. Number two is, no, you cannot require them to see a local therapist. Now, what you can do, especially since COVID, guys, everybody started using online medicine, and a lot of the counseling services went online. I have a good friend of mine that they have a mental health condition where they have regular counseling, and her counselor is out of Denver, Colorado. So this is the new norm. Now you as the landlord have a right, because the request has been made by the tenant, so now you have a right to make sure that this therapist or this company is legitimate, and you have a right to investigate that. So if they are in Miami and they are a company with or a service with legitimate therapists and counselors and psychiatrists or whatever the case may be, if it's legitimate, then yes, you must accept that therapist prescription. Now, if you find out that this isn't a legitimate online service, and that does happen, before you tell your tenant no, remember this: anytime you tell your tenant no regarding a reasonable accommodation request, which this is, or a reasonable modification request, you always speak with your attorney first before you give the denial letter. But based on the fact pattern that you gave me, if that's a legit company, you got to allow it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so important to stay in touch, and the way to do that is join our email list. I got a link down below to a landing page where you can give me your first name, your email address, and you'll get a weekly email with all kinds of great videos and tidbits. Also, you can watch the video right up here if you want to join our Facebook and Twitter, etc. Hey, do me a favor, help me grow the channel. Click the little circle to my left here. Right? That's to subscribe to the channel. Love you all. I really do. See you all in the next video. Happy landlording, everybody.